With Creed 3 coming out, we're matching up Rocky 1 and 2 versus Creed 1 and 2. Which one will be left standing and which one will leave the ring a bloody pulp?
So let's get ready to review. Yo, in the movie galaxy of the YouTube universe, you've landed on Frame Rate Studio, your guide for all things movies. I'm Rocky, or Corey.
Never a dull moment, folks. I'm Chad. I think for me, it's, you watch this and Rocky has so much heart and is such an endearing character. And the heart that's there in Rocky, to me, is completely lacking in Creed.
No heart? No heart.
I think that's the nice contrast of you're not going truly beat for beat with the characters, because in the as far as the movies themselves, they go beat for beat. And it's just like, okay.
Thank you.
And especially when you get into the second one, that I found that was so beat for beat was the hospital.
Yeah.
And then the proposal.
Oh.
Getting pregnant.
Oh.
It's just boom, 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 boom.
The second Creed movie is basically just, is a sad remake of Rocky 4. Or combining Rocky 2. Because
2
of the
and
whole
4.
It's combining 2 and 4, and I completely agree with you. Creed is not something new, which I get it needed to tie in it some way, but I was hoping there would be something new and something more here, and there's not. I mean, it's just, are the Rocky movies as much of a boxing movie as the Creed movies? No, but in all of it, I have a character I want to root for.
Yes, Adonis is not very endearing. As you were saying about Rocky, you wanted to root for him. You wanted him to win. Okay, in Creed 1, I was kind of rooting for him. But at the end of Creed 2, I completely started to feel for Victor.
Exactly.
I was rooting for Victor before over Creed.
Thank you. I'll put it this way. Whether or not I was rooting for Victor right away, I was much more interested, and I would have liked to have seen Victor Drago's story much more than I gave a care in the world about Creed's story. He is not an endearing character. The fights very well shot. That's the one thing I'll give to the Creed series. The camera work and the fights are fantastic.
Yeah, because let me just say on that, the choreography, the fighting was so much, I felt like I was watching a real boxing match, because in Rocky 1 and 2, I'm like, dude, you're getting hit in the face. Put your hands up.
Put 'em up. Put 'em up.
On both sides. Both Creed and Rocky. So that was a negative for Rocky. I don't want to just be tearing down Creed. There's a couple other things with Rocky that took away from it, is going from 1 to 2. 1, okay, he's just an underdog. That's right. All it is.
Right.
2, he's now losing his sight.
Yeah.
And it's like, really, do we have to add that? He's already an underdog.
Right. That was my comment, in going from 1 to 2. The way the story of the first Rocky is constructed, I love it because it's a moral victory for Rocky, and that it passes what I would say the believability or the smell test. It's like, yeah, he probably still shouldn't win over Apollo. The judges wouldn't give him the decision. Doesn't matter. And because, yes, you bring up the point that, yes, both Rocky and Creed decide we're going to lead with our faith. It's like, okay, not the smartest thing ever. But yeah, Rocky 2 started to go into a little bit more of the, not comical, but it was losing some of the drama in 2. And there was also issues with, I get the whole Adrian thing in the hospital is supposed to give Rocky some drive, but it kind of ground it to a halt. And it was like, this needs to be tightened up in some way.
It wasn't just at that point either. It
Right.
wasn't just with the hospital. At the very beginning, when he gave up everything and he was looking for a job, him going from job to job. Then when he gets a job at the meat factory and he's pushing the meat around and everything, that just goes on and on and on. It's like, okay, I understand. He's not a boxer anymore. He's needing to make his way and all these things. It just took forever. But I have to also stop and go, okay, this was early 80s,
Sure.
late 70s. This is the type of beats that happened in there.
And then it's a matter of, is this, I started in watching the Creed movies, I'm like, well, is this supposed to be Creed's story or Rocky's story? Like, we're still trying to, like, there's another subplot. It's like, it's still some story about Rocky's redemption. Then in the first one, Rocky gets cancer.
Well, it's a form of cancer. I know that.
Now in the second one, it's about reconciling with his son, with Robert, and it just...
I agree about, is this a Rocky story or is it a Creed story?
Yeah.
Because in the first time that they did it in the first Creed movie, I was like, okay, that's a nice little callback for the Rocky theme to come in. Then it happens again at the second one when the fight is going and it's hitting its peak and everything, and it's like, okay, you had so much Rocky in this that it makes me want to go, okay, by playing that music, are you passing the torch? Are you saying we're passing the torch? Or are you truly emphasizing that, no, this is a Rocky story?
Right, yeah.
Which one is it? I don't know.
Exactly.
So, I mean, you can, and they can do both. There's no problem with
Sure.
that. However, though, if you're going to do both, you got to focus better on Creed.
And
you
that's,
got to focus better on him.
well, that's what I would say. Well, you just have to have a story that's more focused. I mean, that's the main thing here, is that there's just too many storylines that by the time you get to Creed 2, there's just too many storylines they have out there, because then they had in the Dragos, and it just, I think maybe what I'm figuring out as we're sitting here is, I think where I got more annoyed is I really did want this Creed to be something new and stand on its own 2 feet, and it doesn't. A lot. While yes, the Creed series is much better as far as it being choreographed and the in-ring action. That's great, but there's some of the parts of the lead up to the in-ring action that just go on way too long. I'm not saying I don't want to see the entrance, but it needs to be quicker.
If you're going to do it,
Yeah.
you got to do it the way Rocky did.
Yeah.
Enjoy that. I mean, that was one of the parts of Rocky that was so much great, is Mick and Rock's conversations as Creed is getting in the ring, coming down the ring, or while he's in the ring. And
Is he talking to me? He's talking to you. Is he talking to me? Let him talk.
I just love that dialogue through them. It just had so much more to Rocky's character.
It plays into Rocky's innocence and naivete. I mean, in both those movies, and it's true to the character of Rocky, and it's why I find Rocky very endearing, because even though he's a boxer, even though he's a fighter, even though in the first one essentially he's a mob enforcer, he has a heart of gold. So that innocence of him going into the ring and just kind of having these funny asides and just with Mick.
Don't let it bother you, kid. Won't it bother you?
But one thing I do have to at least, I've given Creed at least the benefit of the fight choreography. The actors in this do a good job. I mean, Tessa Thompson, I really like seeing her on the screen, and I think she did a great job in that role. I think even though I didn't like the character of Adonis, I thought Michael B. Jordan did a good job too. It's not his fault he was given not a great character to have to emulate, in my opinion.
Yes, I will completely agree with that. Going back to the acting, that is one of the downsides to Rocky, at least Rocky. Rocky 2 got a little bit better, but Rocky was a little rough to get through some of the acting.
Yes, but Rocky still wins on the montage part. Now, the Rocky films have these iconic montages. But the one in, I don't remember if it was Creed 1 or 2, but the bike's going around him in the streets of Philly. It's just like, I don't get this. It just fell flat. I mean, I'm not trying to overly attack. It was
honestly,
like,
though, I know what you're saying, but honestly, that compared to Rocky 2, that training montage,
yeah, okay.
I will accept the motorbikes more than kids. This entire group of, I read up, it was something like 80 to 100 kids that they got to run with them. I'm like, There is no way these kids would be keeping. Yes, he pulls away at the end of it, but no, I'm sorry. At the end of his run is when the kids would keep up with him.
Yes, what you said about when they would catch up with everything is absolutely spot on. So, yeah, but still that montage out of the first one is the one that, probably will never be topped.
Well, I'm feeling like we went the full rounds here.
I believe we did, sir. I believe we did. I think it's time to get the judge's decision. Well, this judge's score gave it to Rocky in a win over Creed, 65-48. While Creed came out swinging with some well-choreographed and well-shot boxing matches, that was the only punch it landed. Rocky had heart with an emotionally engaging hero you felt invested in and wanted to root for. Adonis just came across as angry, bitter, and whiny. And in almost every fight, I found myself rooting for his opponent. Rocky's story was a focused character study on who Rocky is and what makes him tick. Creed was overburdened with too many storylines and did not give any of them any justice, making this a very easy decision for this judge.
This judge for the Rocky 1 and 2 versus Creed 1 and 2 gives a score to Rocky as an 86, giving a score to Creed of 74. This Rocky versus Creed fight is much like the Rocky versus Creed fight that started everything. The difference is, this time, Creed came in as the underdog, and nobody expected much from him. But like Rocky did in the first fight, Adonis Creed came in holding his own, but came up short in the end.
So it looks like we have a unanimous decision, Corey. That wraps up this one, and Rocky is our champion. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. And as always, thank you for joining us on our continuing trek through the YouTube universe. I so dislike the character of Adonis, and if you're supposed to, anyway, we've talked about it. You've heard me. We don't need to talk about it anymore. The horse is long dead.